Hey, podcast maniacs, buckle up because today we are diving headfirst into a world where science fiction becomes reality. Humanoid robots.
Yeah, it's really incredible the way that this topic combines like cutting-edge technology with some seriously big questions about, what it even means to be human.
Totally. And for this deep dive, we've got a really cool mix of sources, articles, research papers. We've even got a peek into China's Lunar New Year gala.
Oh yeah, those dancing robots from Unitary Robotics, they were something else, won't they?
Totally. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's back up a bit. The idea of humanoid robots, I mean, it's not exactly brand new, right? Like, think about ancient myths. You know, those stories about automatons? Even early science fiction like RUR back in the 1920s, they were already exploring these ideas.
Yeah, and who could forget Astro Boy?
Right, Astro Boy. So those early ideas, they've definitely, shaped our fascination with humanoid robots. But what's really exciting now is that we're actually seeing those visions come to life.
Absolutely.
It's happening. So let's meet some of these real-life robots, shall we?
Definitely. Let's kick things off with Sophia. She's the brainchild of Hanson Robotics. And, she's become like this global celebrity because her facial expressions are so realistic and her ability to hold conversations is just incredible.
I've seen some videos of Sophia, and honestly, it's a little bit freaky how lifelike she is. You really start thinking about, like, what does it even mean to be human?
Yeah, Sophia really pushes the boundaries of what we consider to be artificial. Another robot that's really pushing the limits is Atlas.
Okay.
Developed by Boston Dynamics. And this robot is like insanely agile. It can even do parkour and backflips.
Oh, hold on, backflips. Seriously. That's wild. I mean, it makes you wonder about what we could do with a robot that agile, like disaster relief, space exploration, or even, maybe military applications.
Yeah, that's a really important point. While Atlas shows how incredibly advanced robotics has become, it also makes us think about, the potential downsides, how this technology could be used in ways we might not want.
Right, it's not all sunshine and roses. And speaking of advancements, we can't forget about Tesla's entry into the game, Optimus Gen 2, designed for, factory work, but maybe even helping out around the house. Could Optimus be our future coworker or even our roommate?
It's definitely possible. Optimus is a really interesting example of this drive to create robots that can seamlessly integrate into our everyday lives. But, there are other companies doing some really cool things in this field, too.
Oh, for sure. And we can't forget that this robotic revolution is global. China, for example. They're investing heavily in humanoid robots, especially for elder care, right?
Right. China's population is aging rapidly, and they see robots as a potential solution. There's a prototype called Guanghua 1 from Fudan University. It's specifically designed for elder care, and they're expecting to launch it in late 2025. Plus, don't forget those dancing robots from the Chinese New Year gala we mentioned earlier.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're a real testament to how robots are becoming more and more a part of mainstream culture.
It's pretty amazing to see how humanoid robots are captivating the public imagination. Not just for practical things, but for entertainment too. But let's go a bit deeper, beyond the surface. What are the core technologies that make these machines tech?
Well, AI and machine learning are like the heart and soul of these robots. These robots are going beyond just, pre-programmed movements. They're actually learning, adapting, and even making decisions on their own.
Wow, that's where things get really mind-blowing. Can you break down the types of learning involved?
Of course. So there's reinforcement learning, where robots learn through trial and error, kind of like how a kid learns to walk. And then there's imitation learning, where robots watch what humans do and learn by copying them.
That's fascinating. It's like they're mirroring our own learning processes. But what about their senses? How do these robots actually experience the world around them?
Well, just like humans rely on our senses, robots have advanced sensors to perceive their environment. They can see using cameras and YR here with microphones, and even feel through touch sensors.
I remember one of the articles talked about a gas bot, which was designed to detect gas leaks. What a game changer for safety. It seems like there's really no limit to what we could do with these robots.
Exactly. As these sensory capabilities get more and more advanced, robots will be able to operate in like super complex and dangerous environments like disaster zones or even outer space.
So we've got robots doing parkour, robots detecting gas leaks, and robots taking care of the elderly. What's next?
Well, we've talked about Atlas and his amazing agility, but there's also a growing focus on dexterity, especially for robots in manufacturing and household tasks.
Dexterity, okay.
Yeah, companies like Figure AI, they've partnered with BMW, and they're working on robots that can work right alongside humans in factories and warehouses, doing those jobs that need a really delicate touch.
Okay, that brings up a question that's on everyone's mind. What about jobs? Are robots going to steal all our jobs?
That's a complicated question, and there's no simple answer. It's true that robots could automate certain tasks, especially those that are, repetitive or dangerous. But you have to remember, every time technology takes a leap forward, it also opens up new opportunities.
So it's not necessarily robots versus humans, but more like a shift in the types of jobs that humans will do.
Yeah, exactly. The key is to adapt and learn new skills that work with robots, not against them.
So instead of fearing the robot uprising, we should see this as a chance to, reinvent the way we work and focus on those skills that are uniquely human.
Exactly. And you know what? This whole conversation about jobs and robots, it's actually a good segue into the ethical side of things.
Yeah, ethics.
Yeah, because the rise of humanoid robots isn't just about the cool tech, it's also raising some serious ethical questions.
You're right, we can't just ignore those questions. What are some of the big ethical concerns we should be thinking about?
Well, safety is a huge one. We have to make sure these robots are designed and used responsibly. We can't forget that these are machines interacting with humans up close, and that can be risky.
And then there's the whole privacy issue. These robots, they're basically data collecting machines. How do we protect our personal information in a world where robots are becoming more and more a part of our lives?
That's a really important question. We need strong regulations and safeguards to prevent people from misusing that data and to make sure this technology is used ethically.
It feels like we're stepping into this uncharted territory where science action is becoming our reality.
It does, in a way, and it's important to remember that we have a role to play in shaping this future. We're not just along for the ride. We have a responsibility to guide the development of this technology in a way that benefits everyone.
So where do we go from here? What does the future hold for humanoid robots?
Well, one trend we're seeing is a bigger emphasis on sustainability. Companies are becoming more aware of the environmental impact of their products, and robots are no exception. We're starting to see robots made from recycled materials and powered by renewable energy.
So a greener future for robots, that's a step in the right direction.
Absolutely. There's also a push towards more intelligence and autonomy. The progress in AI is leading to robots that can learn faster, adapt to new situations, and do more complicated tasks.
And who knows what new applications we'll see in the coming years. Healthcare, education, space exploration, maybe even art. The possibilities seem endless.
The possibilities are definitely expanding rapidly, and it's really exciting to think about how these robots could change the world as we know it.
Now, before we get too carried away with all the incredible possibilities, let's take a moment to consider the human element. How do different cultures view these robots?
That's a really good point. Attitudes towards robots can vary a lot from culture to culture. Like we talked about earlier, Japan has this long history of being fascinated with robots. They often see them as helpful companions, and there's a much greater acceptance of robots being a part of everyday life. But in other cultures, there might be more skepticism or even fear surrounding robots, maybe because of religious beliefs, ethical concerns, or even anxieties about robots taking their jobs.
It's fascinating how cultural differences can shape the way robots are accepted and integrated into different societies.
For sure. Understanding and addressing these cultural nuances is going to be crucial to making sure this technology is developed and used responsibly and ethically.
Now, speaking of ethical development, let's circle back to Dr. Alfred, that hyper-realistic robot surgeon we mentioned earlier. It seems like healthcare is ripe for a robotic revolution. What are your thoughts on the potential benefits and challenges of integrating robots like Dr. Alfred into the medical field?
Dr. Alfred is a really interesting example of where robotics and medicine meet. One of the articles we looked at highlighted how precise and dexterous he is during surgical procedures. Imagine a world where robots work side by side with human surgeons, making them even better and improving outcomes for patients, especially in those really complex or delicate operations.
It's an amazing thought. Robots becoming like an extension of the surgeon's skill, making things more precise and minimizing risks.
Exactly, and it's not just about surgery. Robots could play a huge role in other parts of healthcare too, like elder care. They could provide companionship help with everyday tasks and even monitor health conditions, allowing seniors to live more independently and comfortably.
It's exciting to imagine a future where robots are working hand in hand with humans in healthcare, making life better for both patients and caregivers.
And healthcare is just the tip of the iceberg. The potential applications for humanoid robots are vast, from manufacturing and logistics to education and even entertainment.
You mentioned art earlier. Can you tell us more about how robots are being used in creative fields?
Absolutely. There are already robots out there that can paint, sculpt, compose music, even write poetry. It's this fascinating blend of art and technology, and it really makes you question our ideas about creativity and what art really is.
It's mind-blowing to think about robots expressing themselves creatively. It challenges our assumptions about what it means to be an artist.
It really does. It forces us to rethink the boundaries of creativity and explore new ways of artistic expression.
As we keep diving deeper into this conversation, it's becoming clearer and clearer that the impact of these robots goes way beyond just technology. It taps into our deepest hopes and fears, our values, and our understanding of what it means to be human.
I completely agree.
So as we move towards this future where humans and robots are living and working together, it's essential that we approach it with curiosity, responsibility, and a willingness to adapt.
Yep.
Well, folks, we've covered a lot of ground in this exploration of humanoid robots, from the technological die-throughs to the ethical dilemmas, from the potential benefits to the challenges, from cultural differences to the impact on humanity itself. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I have one final question for our expert. We've talked about the incredible potential of humanoid robots, but what about the future of humanity? How do you see this relationship evolving as these robots become increasingly sophisticated and integrated into our lives?
That's the big question, isn't it? It's something that's fascinated philosophers, scientists, science fiction writers for, forever. It's impossible to predict the future, for sure, but I think we're moving towards a future where humans and robots are going to coexist and collaborate in ways we can't even imagine yet.
Okay, I like it. Paint us a picture. What would that collaboration look like? Give us some concrete examples of, humans and robots working together.
Imagine a world where robots are helping us with those everyday tasks, freeing us up to focus on things that make us human. Creativity, relationships, exploration. Picture robots seamlessly integrated into healthcare, working alongside doctors and nurses, providing personalized care and support to patients, ensuring greater precision in surgery, even expanding access to healthcare in remote areas. Think about robots venturing into dangerous places, exploring the deep ocean or the vastness of space, pushing the limits of human knowledge and discovery, but without risking human lives.
That's a pretty compelling vision. Robots not replacing us, but partnering with us, augmenting our abilities and taking us further than we could go alone.
Exactly. We can think of these robots as extensions of ourselves, tools that amplify our capabilities and let us reach new heights. But it's super important to remember that they are tools and we humans are the ones controlling them. We have a responsibility to make sure this technology is used to benefit all of humanity.
That's a really important point. It's not about robots taking over. It's about humans making conscious choices about how these robots fit into society.
Precisely. We need to be proactive in shaping this future, making sure these robots are used for good, that they improve our lives instead of making them worse.
That brings us back to some of the concerns we talked about earlier. As robots become more and more capable, the question of job displacement becomes even more pressing. What happens to those whose jobs are taken over by robots?
That's a valid concern, and we need to address it carefully. As robots start doing certain jobs, there will definitely be a need for retraining and upskilling people. We need to focus on developing skills that complement robots, not compete with them.
So instead of being afraid of robots, we should see them as a chance to reimagine the world of work, to focus on those skills that are uniquely human, like creativity, critical thinking, problem-solving, emotional intelligence.
Exactly. Those are the skills that will become even more valuable in a world where robots are handling many of the routine tasks.
It's almost like robots are pushing us to evolve to become more human by focusing on the things that set us apart from machines.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. The more we create machines that are like us, the more we have to think about what truly makes us human.
It's a paradox, but it makes you think. Now, you mentioned earlier how different cultures view robots differently. Can you talk more about that? How might those cultural differences impact the way robots are adopted and integrated globally?
Sure. Cultural attitudes towards robots can be really different. Like we talked about, Japan has always been fascinated by robots. They often see them as helpful companions. There's a much higher level of acceptance of robots in everyday life there. But in other cultures, people might be more skeptical or even afraid of robots. It could be because of their religious beliefs, ethical concerns, or worries about robots taking their jobs.
That's definitely something to consider. Cultural context is going to play a big role in how robots are perceived and integrated into societies around the world.
Absolutely. Understanding and addressing those cultural differences will be key to ensuring that humanoid robots are developed and used ethically and responsibly.
Speaking of ethical development, let's go back to Dr. Alfred, the hyper-realistic robot surgeon. It seems like healthcare is a field that could be totally transformed by humanoid robots. What are your thoughts on the potential benefits and challenges of having robots like Dr. Alfred working in medicine?
Dr. Alfred is a really fascinating example of where robotics and medicine come together. One of the articles we read talked about how precise and skillful he is during surgeries. Imagine a world where robots are working right next to human surgeons, making them even better, and leading to better outcomes for patients, especially in those really complex or delicate operations.
That's a pretty amazing idea. Robots becoming like an extension of the surgeon's skills, making things more precise and reducing risks.
Exactly. And it's not just about surgery. Robots could have a huge impact in other areas of healthcare too, like elder care. They could provide companionship, assist with daily tasks, and even monitor health conditions, which would allow seniors to live more independently and comfortably.
It's an exciting vision, a future where robots are working hand in hand with humans in healthcare, improving the quality of life for patients and caregivers.
And healthcare's just the beginning. Humanoid robots have the potential to revolutionize all sorts of fields, from manufacturing and logistics to education and entertainment.
You mentioned art earlier. Can you tell us a bit more about how robots are being used in creative fields?
Of course, we already have robots that can paint, sculpt, compose music, even write poetry. It's a fascinating blend of art and technology that really makes us question our ideas about creativity and what art really is.
It's mind-blowing to think about robots expressing themselves creatively. It challenges our assumptions about what it means to be an artist.
It really does. It pushes us to rethink the limits of creativity and explore new ways of expressing ourselves artistically.
As we continue this conversation, it's becoming clearer and clearer that humanoid robots aren't just about technology. They touch on our deepest hopes and fears, our values, and what it means to be human.
I couldn't agree more.
So as we head towards a future where humans and robots coexist, it's crucial that we approach it with curiosity, responsibility, and a willingness to adapt.
Absolutely.
We've covered a lot of ground in our exploration of humanoid robots. We've talked about the technological advancements, the ethical considerations, the potential benefits, the challenges, cultural differences, and the impact on humanity. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I have one final question for our expert. We've explored this incredible world of humanoid robots, their potential to change so many parts of our lives, and the ethical questions that come with such powerful technology. But as we wrap up our deep dive, I want to ask you, Kusinharia, if you could distill everything we've talked about into one key takeaway for our listeners, what would it be?
That's a tough one, but a good question. I guess if I had to boil it all down to one essential point, it would be this. The future of humanoid robots isn't set in stone. It's something we're actively creating through the choices we make right now. Whether these robots end up making our lives better or worse depends a lot on us, on our ability to approach this new era with careful thinking, a sense of responsibility, and a commitment to ethical development and use. We need to be aware of the potential risks and challenges, but also embrace the amazing opportunities that these robots offer.
That's a really powerful message. It's a call to action for all of us to be a part of these conversations and make sure that how we develop humanoid robots aligns with our values and hopes for society.
Exactly. This isn't just about technology advancing, it's about creating a future that benefits everyone.
Well said. And it's actually pretty inspiring to think about all the possibilities that these robots hold. If we approach this new frontier thoughtfully, who knows what incredible innovations and applications we'll see in the years to come.
I totally agree. It's such an exciting time to be alive, to witness science fiction literally becoming reality.
Absolutely. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the world of humanoid robots. But before we say goodbye, we want to hear from you. What are your hopes and fears about the future of humanoid robots? What questions are still swirling around in your head? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to keep this conversation going with you. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to give us a like, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future explorations. Until next time, fellow knowledge seekers, stay curious.